What you gonna do about it? Nothing. Hello, everybody. I'm trying to sound, is it British, yeah. So hi everyone, today we finally arrived here, Spotify situation, yes. And I have the national husband. Maka is my friend. He's my friend.
Hello, Yolanda. Congratulations on Spotify.
Yay!
Well deserved.
So now we are here. And can you tell us a little bit about Spotify?
I don't think I'm qualified to tell you a little bit about Spotify, but part of this new campaign that you're part of is Spotify wants to help South African creators create podcast content.
Oh, okay.
And then, of course, distribute it on their platform
As well.
So it's really great for people to know that obviously people think of Spotify, they think music and they think audio, right? So maybe they used to listen to podcasts on Spotify, but of course, Spotify has video as well. So podcasters like you create your podcast content in video, and like people have been watching it on YouTube, they can watch it on Spotify as a video.
Okay, that's actually very interesting. And how are you?
I'm good. I'm tired. I'm busy, but I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, ask me as well.
How are you? Who are you fighting with this week?
Nobody. Oh, actually, now that I think about the whole situation, I have a story, but I'll tell you later. Yeah. So I wanted to talk about a very nice and sensitive topic. The reason why I called you to talk about this topic, because I feel like you have more insight about stuff. Do you read a lot of books?
No, I don't read a lot of books, but I try to read a lot of articles and try to stay up to date and think deeply about things and speak to people. I'm not a big reader. I have ADHD, so I struggle to get through pages.
You have ADHD?
I struggle to concentrate. I even struggled in school. Like sitting in a classroom listening to the teacher the whole time. I used to struggle with that because I just couldn't concentrate. I'd lose focus and start being distracted by different things. So I have the same problem with books. A lot of the time while I'm reading a book, I start to my mind drifts and I make up my own story as I go along. But that's my problem with books. But otherwise, things in shorter format, it's easier for me to consume.
So can you tell me a little about ADHD? Because
ADHD.
Right, that one. Because I think a lot of people have that problem, but they kind of don't know about it, or maybe they don't know that it's that. Maybe I also have it. I just don't know.
Yeah.
You know? If you know a little bit about it.
I know a little bit and I have some thoughts on it. And I have my own thoughts on it. So ADHD is a disorder for people who struggle to focus and concentrate. And it is made up of your brain chemistry. So there's certain chemicals in the brain that allow you to do various things. This is the same reason why people have a dopamine deficiency, then they have depression. So that's clinical depression, where the chemistry doesn't allow them to receive enough endorphins, dopamine, all of these various things. So then they feel depressed all of the time. And then they have to treat that with chemical medication that allows them to have normal levels of the endorphins and dopamine levels, etc. So this is why they medicate clinical depression. But sometimes you're just sad, right? You don't need medicine, etc. Some people, you just get sad. It's a normal process of being a human being. That's a normal process of brain chemistry. I think ADHD is in a similar way, is that some people really do struggle to focus. And there's medication that helps their brain chemistry allow them to function more normally. But I think that it's over-treated and over-diagnosed as well. You have a lot of kids who are on Ritalin and ADHD medication that perhaps they don't really need it. Perhaps their classroom environment, etc., needs to change to be more adaptable to kids who focus or work in a different way. Like all of us are different and we all have different skills, different expertise. There's different things that we're better at. So some kids are just going to do really well in a traditional classroom environment and they're going to learn in a book and they're going to learn listening to the teacher in this way, etc. But there's other kids that they just function in a different way. I think I was just one of those kids. I just function in a different way. I don't think that I need medicine to succeed in life. So I think that because we're all so different, I think we just function in different ways. And that doesn't mean that you're going to succeed in life because you were good at the way the school system was set up. And I think it means more today than it did in years gone by, because you used to have to be a doctor or a lawyer or this or that to be successful in the old days. True. But now there's so many different paths that people can be creative, which is normally the difference, right? Is someone who's not very good at the academic side of things, they're normally a little bit better at being creative because they think differently to someone who likes the structure. So I think those are my views on ADHD, is that I think a lot of us probably have ADHD to concentrate on things we don't care about, right? So even people who like to read books, they'll say things like, that book didn't grab me. So because, and then they just, right, exactly. So that's, I think, the big thing with me is that it's so funny how you're a kid who couldn't concentrate at school, but then you could concentrate on the things you like, right? And then people call you lazy, etc. But it's just the way that we function. It's just the way that we work. So if you struggle to concentrate reading books, maybe read articles. And then that way it's a shorter format thing. Maybe find things that you're interested in to develop yourself, to learn about things. Because I think very successful people tend to read books. They read a lot of books, but it's because they're developing themselves, they're developing their mind, they're developing their knowledge. So I think it's very important to develop your knowledge and your mind and yourself. But you can do it in various ways. I watch a lot of documentaries.
So I watch a lot of movies, and that actually did help me in a way. It taught me English. I did learn English from TV.
Yeah.
And it taught me most of the things I know about life. Movies did actually teach me that. And it's very, even some things that I do, some of the things I've kind of like, So I don't know if that's a good thing.
I think a lot of people will argue that it's not, right? Because you're just watching entertainment. I want to finish that thought. Okay. So I think there's a lot of people who argue that it's not, that you should read books and you should learn important things like world issues and learn about the past and history and all of these things. But who's to say what value that brings to your life, right? For example, for me, I love documentaries about history and stuff, and I've got all of this knowledge from watching documentaries of interesting things. So, but what does that help me in my life necessarily compared to what the movies have helped you in your life, right? Yeah. I can know lots about World War II. Does that make me a better businessman? Does that make me better in relationships? Does that make me better as a professional in any sort of things? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But for you, if the movies have helped you be better at certain things that have helped you with your life, why not? So it's like, even though it seems like a frivolous thing, like you're just lazy and entertaining yourself, at the end of the day, if it's bringing richness to your life and you're using that, like you learned English, that's huge for you.
It is.
It's helped you now do a podcast largely in English, right? So, I mean, how crazy is it to think that this thing of entertainment, just watching movies for entertainment, has disproportionately improved your life?
But would you say that, because I also struggled to concentrate in school, and I did fail. Like high school, I failed grade 9. I repeated grade 9, and then I didn't fail after that. But varsity, I actually did my diploma for 9 or 10 years, if I'm not mistaken, failing. But I finished. But it was so difficult, eh? And there are people that actually, in those years that I was busy trying to struggle with my diploma, public relation diploma, they had 2 degrees. They graduated twice, and I'm still trying to.
You see, so if the goal is to get a degree and to finish cum laude and to be the best and to have that so that you can go with a CV into a job interview and say, look how well I did. For someone like you who struggled to concentrate and focus, you maybe would have needed medication in order to do that, right? So you could use something like Concerta or Ritalin, which a lot of university students do because we know that the workload for them is very hard. We know that. It's really tough. And there's a lot of people who are doing university while they have to work as well during the day.
Doing that,
You
actually,
see,
yes.
that's so tough. I don't think, like,
And I was working
really...
in retail.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
you're
you're
working
spending
long
up the whole-
hours,
yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
I commend anyone who can do that because that is hard. That is really, really hard. Like, it's already hard enough to work a job now in 2024. Now add studies to that, you have no personal life, you're exhausted. It's a really difficult thing to do. So I just think that people need to focus on what they and really focus and be honest with yourself. That's the other thing, is we put unnecessary pressure on ourselves, right? We say, if I don't achieve this in my life, I've failed. But sometimes that goal or that ambition sometimes is unreasonable, or you can't attain it in that way. You're putting pressure on yourself and you're just making yourself depressed and anxious and all of these things. But if you really dig deep and give yourself a good strategy for what you want to achieve in your life and focus on those things, then you can succeed. And I'm not saying that medication is the right way for everyone who wants to do that. But sometimes if you do need that, and you can go see a psychologist and say, listen, I need this medication to get me through this many years of university, maybe that's the right way for you. But I think that we mustn't put pressure on ourselves, especially expectations from other people who say, you need a degree to succeed. But you don't anymore. You know, so I don't think people should put that sort of pressure on themselves, and just accept that you're a different human being to other human beings, right? So some people don't need medication and they'll go through university because that's the way that they work. It's just the system that works really well for them. But just because that system doesn't work for you, I don't think you must take medication so that you fit into the system. If you need to, maybe. But I don't think that you must necessarily medicate so that you fit into the system. And find a way for the system to work for you and do things that work for you and your ambitions and your dreams. And I'm not saying don't work hard towards it. You know, if you set a difficult but achievable goal, that's very, very, what's the word? It's very rewarding to set a difficult ambition and a difficult goal. And I think not enough people actually try to achieve difficult things in their life, because it creates so much character for you to go and do difficult things. That's why I think sport is important, is that when you achieve things in sport, it's hard to be very good at a sport. It's very hard. And I think doing the difficult things makes you a better person and a happier, more fulfilled person in the end. But again, don't set a task that's impossible for yourself and then hate yourself because you can't achieve it. So it's just that honesty with yourself all of the time, constantly reevaluating, keep questioning yourself, you know, am I playing Candy Crush instead of studying? Do you know what I'm saying? Am I playing cell phone games instead of studying? Be honest with yourself and be like, maybe just delete that app, focus, and achieve something hard. I think that those are the things that I think people can do. And for me with ADHD, I think those adjustments, because when I was younger, I was trying to fit into a system. And the medication helped me fit into that system for a little bit.
Oh,
and
so you did
when I was
medication?
a kid. Yeah, when I was
when did you stop?
So I was about 13 years old when I was on Ritalin in high school, early high school. Because a psychologist,
when you're in high school?
my first year of high school, you're 13 and you're turning 14.
Oh,
you turn 14 in your first year, right? So I think when I started, I was still 13 at that time. And I went to a psychiatrist and they did a scan and they said, yes, you have ADHD. This medicine will help. And the medicine helped. My grades were good.
Really? So you could concentrate?
I concentrated, but my mom hated it. She hated the effects on my personality. So I'm really lucky to have the mom that I had, that she evaluated how I was doing, and she's like, no, he's a zombie. He's not the funny, cheerful, talkative person that he normally is. That's what it did for me. I don't want to say what it does for everyone, but I think it is common that it'll adjust the things that you do. So I was less creatively minded. I was less determined to do more silly, fun, frivolous things. And then for school, that's great. Like a teacher wants a person who's going to just be good at that structure of school. But then what happened was we just learned that I was unhappy in that school. And it was a very good school. It just wasn't good for me. And then I moved schools. I went to an art school and I did music as well as my academics. And I did much, much better. And I didn't need medication.
Sing?
No, I can't sing. I played drums and percussion. But I did much better in that environment than in the more traditional school environment.
Oh,
so
I
changing the
see.
environment helped me a lot. And it's things like that that helped me do what I do today. Even though I'm not playing drums and percussion, at the end of the day, I went into sound and creative and all of these things, and it's more aligned to what I do today. So just changing the environment was better for me than the medication. So those are my views on it. I think that there's a lot of people who struggle to concentrate on the things that they
Yeah.
don't like. Of course.
I
Of course,
think
you're not
you're
gonna.
right about the fact that you concentrate better on things that you like. Because, for example, I struggle to concentrate in class or maybe even at church sometimes. I would sleep. But if I'm watching a movie,
You can
I
concentrate.
used to watch Nigerian movies. Nigerian movies, they play for 4 hours. I will legit stay and watch until it ends without sleeping or without being, you understand? Or maybe watch cartoons from 2 when I come back from school until 6 or 5 when Dab says bye, bye-bye. And then that's when I'm like done. So I think you're right when you say that you concentrate better to things that you actually love. Even now, when I was working normally before this, I hated going to work. Every morning I'll be like, oh my gosh. And when I was there, I was just checking what time. But now because I think I'm doing things that I love, I can't even wait to come here. Like,
Yeah.
I can't wait to record. I can't wait to be wherever. I can't wait to think of new ideas. What can I do here? Where can I do there? How should I start? Whatever. Because it's something that I'm actually, like, I love. It's something that I love doing now. No one is pushing me to do any of these things. It's because I love doing it. So it's different. And I'm really putting 300,000%.
You see, that's the important part, is that it can't not be hard work. I think everything you must do in your life, especially as young people around our age, when you're 65.
What is our age?
I'm 36. But when you're 65, then I understand. Choose the easy route.
Yeah.
Do you know, you've done so much in your life, choose the easy route. But at our age, we've got so much time and energy, and it's so important for us to push for success now at this age. Push hard, work hard. But if you're able to work much harder in the things that you want to do that are more rewarding for you than in the things that you hate and you don't want to do. So that's why, like, it's not like you worked harder when you were working your job in retail that you hated. You probably work harder now, but you get more reward from the work that you do now, and you're more prepared to put in that hard work rather than sit and look at the clock and maybe procrastinate and don't give your best for your boss and things like that. So not everyone can choose what they love, right?
Yeah,
like
that's
we would
true.
just be a million basketball players and rappers and footballers, and that would be the whole world. You know, everyone would be an actor, because that's what, like, we all sort of want to do that. But at the end of the day, if you find a skill that you're good at and that you enjoy enough to really push hard and work hard, you're going to have a lot more reward and relief from that.
That's true. Actually, so I called you here today for us to talk about a very, like I said, sensitive topic. I think it's very sensitive. And I feel like we don't talk about this enough. And I feel like we should talk about it more as people in the world. Maybe if that happens. And also, I want us to dive in. Okay, I'll tell you. So I want us to talk about gender-based violence, right? I've never really been in that situation personally, but I've seen a lot of people go through that. For example, I've seen my mom go through that. And I don't think my neighbors or my dad, they actually really understood what was happening in the situation. I feel like for them, it was normal. Like when you are married and you feel like your wife or your wife is disrespecting you, you need to hit them, because that was just the life. And he was that type of a husband to my mom, but he was a different dad, because he never really hit us or, punish or whatever the case is. That really didn't happen to me personally when he was raising me. But he did that to my mom most of the time when they had a fight. So I think sometimes people do that because they think that's, for example, my dad, maybe he saw his dad doing it and that was like, okay, it felt like, and I feel like there's still people or guys that still believe that it is really not gender-based, but it's how things are supposed to be. Because I grew up seeing this happening. So imagine if I was a guy and I saw my dad doing that to my mom my whole life, and then I get married. I think that will probably happen because in my head I'll be like, okay, my dad used to do this. So meaning it's okay for me to actually do it to whoever I feel like they're disrespecting me. But I want to hear your thoughts as a guy. Okay, as a white man.
Yeah. I wanna start with how funny the image is in my mind of someone trying to do gender-based violence on Yolanda. Imagine Yolanda with a boyfriend who wants to come hit her.
Oh my word!
I mean, it's not a laughing matter, of course, but
what would you think I'd do though?
Not
a laughing matter, I know, but oh my God. What do you think
I just want to see the shock. Like the look on your face of like, what do you think you're doing? Are you lost?
Do you think
Are you
I'll fight
confused?
back?
I don't know what. I can't even picture it because I just picture you like, excuse me? Like, what do you think you're doing?
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? But besides that, it's
do.
not a laughing matter. But that, to me, is a funny image of like, if you had a boyfriend who came and was about to hit you, I would just see this like, excuse me?
And that has never
You're going to
happened to
do
me.
what?
Like, I've never dated anyone that even tried, you know, or maybe...
Sure.
I think I pick them well. Like, I think I can tell that this one will probably try and hit me.
I'm not saying it can't happen to you. Of course, I think, and it's not the responsibility of any woman that it happens to, of course. But I can't picture it happening to you. Like, I just picture that, excuse me? You're going to do what? Maybe think again before you do that. You know what I'm saying? So, but away from the jokes. I mean, of course, a very serious matter. And I think that a big part of it is exactly what you explained and described, is how if it seems okay to people around you, that excuses the behavior. But that's not where it comes from. I don't think gender-based violence comes from the idea that, oh, well, my whole community thinks it's okay, so I'm going to do it. That is excusing the behavior that these people want to commit, right? So if you remove that, you're removing excuses from the behavior, you make sure that it's not okay, and then that adds the consequence to those actions. Because what's happening in South Africa today, where we have a massive gender-based violence issue, is that the volume of the community that thinks that that behavior is okay, especially with wives and girlfriends, right, is making the consequences not come to the people who are committing these acts. So I think consequence is a big deterrent from action, right? We don't rob a bank because we know you get arrested when you rob a bank. So the consequence is the deterrent to the action. And I think that there's not enough deterrent for people who are committing these actions. So I think that's part of it, is that if your neighbor thinks it's fine and my dad thought it's fine and everyone in my community and my friends all say, yeah, I beat my girlfriend, I beat my wife. When she steps up to me, she must know her place, what. That sort of conversation is bad because it normalizes the activity. It normalizes what people are doing, and that's no good. But I think it's a deeper issue, is what causes people to, because my whole community can be like, yeah, it's okay to hit your wife or girlfriend. Does that make me hit my wife or girlfriend? No. There's something else. There's something deeper wrong in the situation that causes people to do that. Now, I think drug and alcohol abuse is part of it. People drink. They're not okay with themselves. They're not happy with how their life's going. They don't feel in control of their lives.
Actually, you're right about drinking as well, because I don't remember my dad hitting my mom when he was sober. You're right. Like it always happened when he was drunk.
So now why do people drink in the first place, right? So it's one thing for people to consume a bit of alcohol, go out, have fun, drink a bit of alcohol, have a good time. But when people are having a bad time on alcohol, that's normally a sign of why they're drinking, right? So if you get drunk and you come beat your wife, if you get drunk and you get into a fight in a bar, if you get drunk and you post on Facebook and Twitter and TikTok videos of you complaining about this country's a mess, this is what's going on, these people, and you say racist and bigoted and all of these horrible things when you're drunk, that means that there's something wrong with you and where you are in your life. You're not okay. And when you lash out at these other people, you're actually not happy with yourself. That's normally where it comes from. Not to say that I don't have a tendency sometimes when driving and someone does something stupid on the road that I don't feel like getting out and hitting them. But I stop myself, right? But a lot of the time when people are abusive or even verbally violent and aggressive or demeaning and mean to other people, they're not okay in themselves. Their own security in themselves, they feel deeply insecure in themselves and a deep lack of control in their lives because they're not happy with where their life is going. So if you're unhappy with your job, you don't think that you're doing well at work, whatever, all of these things, they're not taking accountability for their own responsibility in where their life is. You know, sometimes, yes, I understand life is hard. Sometimes society is partially responsible for where you end up in your life. But if you take responsibility and say, listen, I'm not happy with where I am in my job, in my career. I don't like that how my boss speaks to me, etc. Sometimes you need to look at yourself and say, what have I done to change that? Have I taken enough action to have changed that thing in my life that I don't like, that I'm not happy with? Right? Have I saved enough money without like spending money on things like drinking, etc., etc.? Saved enough money so that I can quit this job and look for another one, somewhere where I'll be happier, or take a course to better my skills so that I can go into the career that I want to do. All of these sorts of things, I think, accumulate and add up. And I think that South Africa is a country with a troubling history. Of course, people were done wrong, horribly wrong. So a lot, even to this day, of people are in scenarios that they're not responsible for the scenario that they're in. And that also adds to the issue. But you need to take responsibility in yourself because it's all you can do. You cannot sit and blame everyone else for where you are in your life. Sometimes other people are responsible, but you just need to forget that and move on and try and change your life yourself. And I think that's where the problems lie, is that people are so deeply insecure and unhappy with themselves, and they resent themselves, they hate themselves, and they beat their girlfriend or wife to try and feel more powerful, more in control, to try and feel better than the person they're doing things to. And I think that's where the issue lies. And I think it's so important for men to talk to their friends. If their friend says, yeah, I just hit my girlfriend or wife, a teacher, to put her in her place, she must know who she's speaking to like that. You need to be like, that's not okay. You're my friend, and that's not okay. What's wrong with you that you have to hit your wife or girlfriend? My wife or girlfriend can say anything to me, and it's water off a duck's back because I'm okay with myself. I know I'm fine. She can talk about how I am in the bedroom. She can talk about how I look. She can talk about me being fat, whatever. If my girlfriend or wife calls me fat and I'm upset by it, maybe it's because I also think I'm fat.
Yeah.
Then I must do something to not be fat, right? So that is where those problems come from, is that if you're so angry when someone says you're fat, it means you're not happy with how you look. Is hitting that person going to solve the problem of how you being unhappy with how you look? No. What's going to solve the problem of you being unhappy with how you look is going to the gym and sorting that out and fixing your life. So these are the problems. And this is why gender-based violence, hardly ever do you hear it happens once.
Yeah, in most cases.
Because it's not fixing the problem. You hitting that person is not fixing that problem. And then that's the other thing, is you drinking alcohol or doing drugs is not fixing the problem. So it's okay to go out with your friends and have some drinks and have some fun and get drunk and have a good time. But if you're drinking on a Tuesday after work because you're upset and that's, I need a drink, otherwise I'm not okay, and then you do that every day, that's a problem. And it's not fixing the problem. Fixing the problem is fixing your work scenario, fixing where you are in your life, fixing your financial situation, all of those things. Alcohol is not going to fix those problems for you. And neither is beating your wife or girlfriend is not going to make you feel more powerful or more in control. You know, beating your wife exerts your physical power over your wife. It doesn't make you have power over your boss who exerts his power over you.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't really change or help the situation.
It doesn't at all.
When you go back, if you had a problem there at work, it will still be there, whether you hit your wife or not.
Actually, it's worse. In fact, it makes things worse. Like drinking alcohol, You're trying to solve the problem, you're making the problem even worse, because the problem is your self-esteem, your ego, your character. And hitting your wife or girlfriend, you might feel more powerful and in control in the moment for a little bit, but afterwards you feel guilty, you feel resentment, and you feel worse about yourself because you know what you're doing is wrong and you know you're being a bad person. Deep down, you know that you are doing what's wrong and you are being a deeply bad, wicked person. And you hate yourself even more. And that's why it continues to happen. It's a cycle. And we need to break the cycle. We need to pay attention to who in our community is a victim, who in our community is a perpetrator. And we need to not only serve those people with consequence so that they stop doing it, we need to help them with the deeper problem. And that's the hardest part of all of this, is having sympathy for someone who's doing something really bad. Having empathy and trying to help them with the deeper problem. That is so hard to do. I don't want to do that. My neighbor beats his girlfriend. I don't want to go over there and be like, what's wrong? Tell me what's wrong. I want to help you. You know, but that has to be part of it. You have to go there and be like, hey, stop. Don't do that anymore. There will be consequences. You know, but that's the part of it. And then the other thing is, why are you doing this? See a therapist. Try and solve your problems. Or just talk. Some people can't go see a therapist. Actually, a lot of the people who are committing gender-based violence, I'm not saying it's exclusively there, is in poorer communities.
In most cases.
A lot of the time. But it's not exclusive to that. I'm not saying that at all. There's some wealthy people who are doing this as well.
We just
right?
had a Michelle issue as well. I mean, they have money, but is it her husband or boyfriend that was also abusing her or beating her?
That man needs to go to therapy. He can afford it. And sort out his problems so that he doesn't feel the need to beat his wife or girlfriend. That's very important. But what we can do as people on the ground today is keep having this conversation so that when people who are beating their wife or girlfriend hear Marco saying this and saying to you, it's not okay, maybe that sinks in a little bit. And saying to, I think it can be. Of course, a lot of people don't. But maybe what sinks in is that I know you're not doing okay if you're doing these things. I'm not saying to you that it's not okay. Marco says you're breaking the rules, whatever. That's the, what do you know? You know? They'll call me whatever level of names and say that I'm nothing or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I'm effeminate or whatever. But at the end of the day, is me saying to you, and if you're listening to this and you are a perpetrator and you say, Marco, you're so-and-so, what do you know? I know that what you're doing comes from a deeper place. I know that what you're doing comes from when your father used to hit you and it wasn't fair. I know that it comes from that you're unhappy with your state in your life. I know it's coming from, and you can't lie to yourself when I say those things. You cannot lie to yourself and say, I have no problems. I know if you're beating your wife or girlfriend, you've got problems. I know that's where it comes from. Sort that out and you'll be happier in your life. Not only are you doing something horrible to a human being who you probably love, it's your wife or girlfriend, you have some level of affection for that person. So you should feel guilty for the things you're doing to them. But not only that, is that I know you're not okay and you're not doing okay. Speak to someone, fix those problems, and you'll be happier. You'll exponentially change your life taking that action and fixing the problems that you had.
Have you been in a situation where you saw someone?
I had a neighbor who hit his wife.
Did he stop?
I don't know if it continued afterwards, but we got the police involved on that night that he hit his wife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's as far as I know. But I don't have, my friends, none of them have confessed to anything like that. I've seen no signs of anything like that amongst my friends, which is a great thing. I'm very lucky to be, and maybe that's why I can have this conversation in the way I can, but hopefully me having this conversation helps other people speak to their friends. If your friend is doing that and you're not comfortable, if your friend's like, yeah, you know, she must learn her place, whatever, and says things like that, be brave, stop him. Be brave, stand up and be like, what do you mean put her in her place? What's wrong with you? Don't do that.
And what do you think about the Chris Brown matter? Because he's coming to South Africa and people are not happy. Like that really, I was shocked when I saw the whole on Twitter, they were talking about it, and they were like, no, he can't come because he once did this publicly, and everybody knew what he did to Rihanna. And somewhere, somehow, there's a rumor that him and Rihanna are good people. They're fine. They forgive each other. They are happy. But people are still not happy with what happened a million years back.
I can see both sides of the argument. One, people who are saying, but Rihanna and him, it's water under the bridge. She's forgiven him. It's done. It's over. Does that mean that he faced no consequence for what he did publicly?
Did he not, though?
I think he faced consequence.
He did
I don't
go
know.
to jailish.
Yeah, I think he got arrested on the night. He was in jail for a day or two, or lock up for a day or two, or whatever, and then released. But what had happened to his career and his credibility and all of those things, he suffered some level of consequence. Is it enough? That's not for me to judge.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Right? That's not for me to judge of what level of consequence happened to him. I think that it's a delicate issue, but the problem is that there's a lot of people who don't want him to perform because they feel it celebrates gender-based violence in a country where it's rife. So you understand that argument, right?
I see.
Like South Africa has a huge gender-based violence issue. But now Chris Brown is coming here as a hero, as a performer, selling out stadiums. Everyone wants to be Chris Brown. But this is who Chris Brown is. We know that publicly. So I understand that argument that people are saying, don't let him perform. We cannot celebrate people who do this. I understand that side of the argument. But at the end of the day, they've sold a lot of tickets. I mean, isn't it? It's close to sold out. They're selling the last phase now or something along those lines. Look, I'm not familiar enough with it. But that means people want to go see this guy perform. And at the end of the day, should we stop Chris Brown from coming and performing in South Africa? I don't think so. I think that people want to see his show. He's an entertainer. He's a terrific artist. He's a wonderful performer. His music's great.
Didn't he apologize?
Yeah.
Did he have another scandal after that?
I don't know. Personally, I don't know. But at the end of the day, even if he didn't apologize and he didn't have another scandal after that, etc., I might be a hypocrite for saying this because you have to hold people accountable. I think that people should be holding him accountable within his friend circle. What does he care for a few people on Twitter saying that he's an abuser? It doesn't change his life. But what's important is that I'm glad that the conversation is brought up because more people need to talk about this. And more people need to talk about how it's not okay. Should he perform? Should people go watch him? That's up to those people who go to watch him. But I think that if you have an issue with gender-based violence and you want to go see the Chris Brown show, I recommend that you do the research on what happened and where he stands and see if you are supportive of this man still before you buy a ticket and you go watch this show. I think that is important for us to have this conversation. And it's like, maybe this case is a little bit more than just a concert.
But do we forgive them?
It's not my place to forgive him.
No, I mean like as people, as let's say for example, maybe your friend once did something like that, and then they faced whatever they faced. Do we forgive them? Do we keep? Because my thing is, yes, he did that a million years back, and then I don't think there was ever any other scandal about it. Maybe there is, I just don't know about it. But if there wasn't, maybe he changed. I don't know. But do we forgive that, or do we like stick to the whole situation that he once did that, and it will mean that we're celebrating the whole thing if he comes?
So it's hard to say, but I'm results driven, and it can sound heartless in a way. Is that if Chris Brown isn't allowed to perform in South Africa, what does it change and for who?
Oh.
What does it change and for who? So I'm glad that it started the conversation. And in terms of Chris Brown and him being forgiven or whatever, I actually don't even think any of that matters. Who cares if he's forgiven or not forgiven or whatever. How do people within his circle make sure that he changes his ways? That make sure that he regrets that and doesn't do it anymore and isn't, because like I said, it comes from a deeper issue. It came from his own insecurities, maybe his own abuse as a child, maybe his own things. How he deals with that is far beyond us. I don't know Chris Brown personally. I can't go have a conversation with him and be like, Chris, are you okay?
Have you stopped?
Why did you do that? Have you stopped? And if you haven't stopped, why? What can we do for you to help you feel better about yourself, that you don't feel like you need to do this anymore, right? And are you abusing substances? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? How can we help you from not doing that? I don't know Chris Brown personally enough to do that. So for me, stopping his concert, is that going to change anything? I don't think so. I don't think it changes anything for Chris Brown. But I understand what it changes for the narrative in South Africa about who is celebrating Chris Brown and what does that say to the people who are doing gender-based violence. Is this a role model? Do you know what I'm saying? For like young boys, is Chris Brown a role model? Well, I think that you can take the positives. I think that we need to teach people to be logical. I think we need to say, is Chris Brown a terrific singer and dancer and performer? Yes. Should I aspire to be those things? If you've got the talent and the skill, 100% you should look at Chris Brown and be like, how has he made his music good? How does he do his dance music? How has he become a terrific artist, a terrific performer? Does that mean you need to idolize Chris Brown in every other side of his life? Of course not. That's idiotic. That's stupid to think that you should idolize certain celebrities and try to live your life exactly like theirs in every way. You need to be logical about what's good for you, what's good for your career, what's going to benefit your life and your happiness and your joy. Is hitting your girlfriend in a Lamborghini on the way to awards because she threw keys out of the window, is that going to make you a happier, better person, more fulfilled in your life and whatever? Of course not. That's not going to help you in any way. It's going to make you depressed. It's going to make you suffer consequences. It's going to ruin your life doing things like that. Is being a terrific artist and performer and musician, etc., to the level of Chris Brown and working really hard to be even better at it every day, is that going to benefit your life? Yes, of course, yes. Take those things. So I'm about the results, and I think that I'm glad that it started a conversation that we can get more results in this country because it's desperately needed.
Do you think him coming, it's going to help the country?
I think that it helps the conversation. I am also concerned that it helps celebrate it. Do you know that it's like, look, these people tried to stop Chris Brown and they couldn't stop him, you see? Men. Do you know? Patriarchy. Yeah, you woman tried to stop. If it creates that narrative,
that's wrong.
That's wrong. Yeah. And that's bad. So I do have a concern for that. But if it creates more conversations like this one, then it's a good thing. And it's sad to say it's a good thing because I'm sure there's a lot of women who are protesting and saying Chris Brown mustn't come to this country because he's an abuser, who are victims of abuse. And that's very hurtful for Marco to say it's a good thing. But I'm saying that this conversation is a good thing because we want to stop things like that happening to you again. We want to stop things like that happening to anybody else, to your daughters, to your sisters, to your mothers, to all of these women in South Africa who suffer abuse every day. It's terrible. And I think it's a good thing if it creates more of these conversations that other men can hear me having this conversation and look at the actions within themselves, but more importantly, the actions within their community, the actions within their friends group, the actions amongst their fathers, amongst their brothers. And hopefully it gives them the bravery to say, you know what? I know where this is coming from. Stop. Let's help you with your problems. Let's fix the problem. And that's another thing that I understand is very hard for a victim of abuse to hear, is that I'm saying, go help these men. If you've been a victim of abuse, you don't want help for the guy who hurt you. You want retribution. You want him to suffer consequences. And I do agree. I think consequences should be there as a deterrent to stop people from doing these things. But the more important, sadly, the more important, deeper issue is empathy towards people who abuse to help fix their problems, because that abuse isn't coming from just an evil, wicked human being. All human beings are human beings deep down. It's coming from somewhere. It's coming from some sort of problem, and you need to fix that problem to stop the abuse. These are just my views on gender-based violence in general, not necessarily Chris Brown. Because I couldn't care. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not following Chris Brown. I don't care what he has to say.
You're not on Twitter?
I'm hardly on Twitter.
You should come back.
Come back. It's a wild west there.
It is. Oh my God.
It's crazy.
Oh my
cause too
word.
much trouble on Twitter.
They will fetch you.
It's one of those things that are, like I said, Twitter's one of those things that's not going to help me like alcohol's not helping people. Going on Twitter, I know I'm going to go on Twitter, I'm going to get into arguments with people, get into fights, and what's it going to help? It's not going to help that person. It's not going to help me. It's not going to help anybody. Me going onto Twitter and fighting with people.
And the internet doesn't forget.
That's why we're here. So it's not gonna help me. So I don't think that I'm gonna get anything out of Twitter. But yeah, just hopefully conversations like this really help people. And like I said, it's more specifically men. If you can speak to your friends, just be brave enough when you know it's wrong. When you know it's wrong, speak up. When boys will be boys and they're having the conversation there and you sit there quietly, be brave enough, step up.
Have you been in a situation where a woman was abusing a man? I've seen that, actually.
That also happens.
I've seen it on a reality show, and I was like,
That also happens, and I am familiar with one incident with a friend of mine who suffered abuse, and I know many men who suffer psychological abuse from their woman, which is also not okay, of course.
Yeah,
do you know what I'm saying? I think it's far more
worse.
common because men can normally exert more of a physical dominance over women. So that's why it's very rare for physical abuse to happen to a man. Because if I had a girlfriend, I'm not likely to have a bigger, stronger girlfriend than me. It's going to feel weird, right? I'm not saying that there aren't women out there who are bigger and stronger than me. There are. But like, it's going to just feel weird,
I hear
right?
you.
But in general, biologically and physically, I feel like this is the sort of conversation that can get me into trouble because someone's going to come and be like, not all men are biological men. What they're going to come with that story, which I don't believe in. But anyway, in general, biological men and biological women are different in their physical attributes. And men are more physically domineering and capable with their testosterone, with their bone density, with their muscle mass, with all of those things. They are far more capable of exerting physical dominance over a woman than a woman is of a man. So this is why the conversation of GBV is so important, is because that's what's common. That doesn't mean that it's not okay, that it is okay for a woman to physically abuse a man. Of course, it's still not okay. But I understand why it's not part of the general conversation, because it is rarer and it's an isolated, more of an isolated issue. Which one do you
think? I think we have more women abusing men than men abusing women.
Physically, definitely not.
Yeah, physically, definitely not. But
perhaps psychologically.
Yes, psychologically.
I wouldn't be able to tell you statistics and things like that. I think it's going to be almost impossible to figure out, because a man would feel emasculated in admitting that they're being psychologically abused, right?
Because I think the reason why I'm saying this, that I feel like it's more to men, not physically, obviously, than to women, men being abused, is because if you check the suicidal rates, they are more on men.
Yeah, look, I don't know if you can relate that to relationships.
Don't you think they do that because they are being abused?
No, I think that the reason why suicide is so big amongst men is that societally and in our communities, in our societies, we've created a narrative that men need to be strong and just deal with their problems, and they feel lonely and isolated in their problems, and they don't feel like they can fix them or talk about them, etc. Men are also under a great deal of pressure financially to provide for their families, etc. Even if you're a single man in his late 20s, 30s, 40s, and you don't have a wife or girlfriend, you feel isolated and alone, and you haven't made enough money to be with an elite, especially when you look at things like Instagram, right? This is a man. This is the guy. He's got a Lambo. He's got a Porsche. He's got this, right? And you're not those things. You feel isolated and alone, and you almost can't have that conversation. So that is what I see as part of the mental health pandemic amongst men for suicide rate. And I believe October was Suicide Awareness Month for men, right? Or Men's Mental Health Month or something like that. I think it's very important for men to have honest conversations with each other, with themselves, with their partners, with their families, about how they're feeling. And then they might feel less alone in realizing that other people, other men, share the same problems that they do. So I don't know if I don't know if it's down to abuse. I think that men feel deeply isolated in their problems, and they don't deal with those problems in a healthy way necessarily. And therefore they feel like their final option is to commit suicide. You know, a lot of them lose employment, lose income, aren't able to provide for their families, or aren't able to buy a Lambo, buy a Porsche, all of those things. These things that we're told is important to be a man, is you need to be that successful. By the way, less than 1% of the world is that successful. That's how economics works. Less than 1%. You can go out here, meet 200 people. How many of them have a Porsche? You can walk around here and meet 1,000 people. How many of them have a Porsche? Right? So that's the thing, is that it's such a small percentage that we hold our standards to. And it's like sometimes just having a conversation with other people helps you realize that that's not required of you. That's not what makes you a human being. That's not what makes you valuable. And I think that's the thing, is that a lot of men feel deeply isolated. They don't want to be alive anymore. They don't feel like they contribute to anyone. They don't feel like anyone would miss them if they were gone. More so than I think it is abuse from a spouse or girlfriend. I think that happens. And I think that a lot of men who are abused by their spouse or girlfriend and ridiculed and pulled down or whatever do get to a point of depression and suicidal thoughts or suicidal acts. I think it could contribute to that, but I don't think that women in relationships are to blame for the high suicide rate amongst men. I think that's a societal problem where we don't let men talk about their problems, and we make them feel like their problems are their own, and that if they don't achieve these things, they're not valuable. That's where I see it. So once again, it's so important for men to talk to each other. It's not okay to beat your girlfriend. What is wrong? What is wrong? Are you doing okay? How can I help you? By the way, I also feel bad sometimes. I also don't feel good. I also feel depressed. I also feel like I'm not achieving enough. But Marco, you're doing all of this and that and this and that, and you're doing great things. People idolize you, whatever. Sometimes you just need to hear that. And you're like, you know what, you're right. Only I think I'm not doing enough, but everyone around me thinks I'm doing great.
It's always like that.
Right? And I feel like no one cares if I'm going to leave. So sometimes it's important to speak to your friend, even if you think that they're okay. You're doing okay. And you know what, to be honest, sometimes I'm depressed. And then your friend says to you, me too. Sometimes I'm depressed, but you know what? I wake up in the morning and I look at my kids and I look at what I've achieved in my life and I look at my career and I look at these things and I'm like, you know what? I'm okay. And I'm going to keep pushing on. But those days that you don't feel good, phone me. Let's talk. I also have the same problems as you. And sometimes just that makes you feel less alone, less isolated, and lets you know that someone would care if you were gone.
Yeah. I always used to think that maybe that would usually happen because mostly they are kind of like being abused-ish. I saw a reality show where this girl was really abusing her boyfriend, like terribly so, on national TV. And that guy was just, I'm going to have him one day here. That guy, everyone was shocked about how he handled the whole situation throughout the whole season of that reality show. And it was so painful to watch, to think that there's so many men that are probably going through that. And we get to see it now here. It's actually happening. But normally we don't really think about it like that.
That a man will take it.
That guy literally took everything that girl was throwing. She called him every little thing you can think about.
Right. And then he actually feels worse about himself because he feels emasculated that he doesn't stand up to it. But it's part of the process because you get to that point slowly. If I meet a woman today and she's verbally abusive to me and tells me I'm pathetic and tells me I'm short and tells me I'm skinny and tells me all of this or whatever. If she says that to me today on the first day I meet her, what am I going to do? I'm going to say, fuck you, get lost. I don't want to speak to you ever again, right? But if they're sweet to you and they're sincere and they treat you like gold and whatever, and then you're together for a year and she starts to slowly say negative things about you, and you're together for 2 years and it's even worse, and you're together for 3 years. You've been together for 3 years. You start to believe those things she's telling you.
Yeah.
That's how the manipulation works. And I'll be vulnerable for a second. I'll admit that my first adult relationship was with a girl who was older than I am. She was older than me. And she would bring it up on every occasion, every time that I had a thought, that I had an opinion, that I had a view on how she was behaving, on how she was speaking to me, whatever. You're young, you don't understand. And it was everything. So I felt, and I was psychologically abused in that relationship. I was always belittled. I was always told I'm not good enough. I was always told I'm bad at this and that in every way. And she would purposefully select things that would be the most hurtful to me in order to do those things. And I stayed in that relationship and I did nothing and I accepted it until I got to a point that I didn't and I ended it. And I think that was so important for me to end that relationship. But the reason I'm sharing this is not to say, oh, feel sorry for me, whatever, is in the hopes that if someone else is experiencing that, they understand that please leave, please identify that behavior and leave. But it's okay. You're not the things that she says you are. Be honest with yourself. You know that you're not the things she says you are. You've been manipulated. You're a victim of someone's abuse. And get out of that scenario. And if you identify that in someone else that you know, speak to that person and be like, listen, leave. She's horrible to you. She doesn't help your life. She doesn't benefit you. And help people through those situations because it does happen. It's common. It happened to me. So, but I don't want that to detract from the conversation of GBV. I think it's a far greater issue. I think there's a lot of men abusing women and it's not acceptable physically.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
So I'm not saying that it's acceptable that women can manipulate men. Of course, that's not all right.
But what do we say about, let's say, for example, a woman was abusing a man like that, right? To a point where he end up reacting physically.
That's not the right reaction.
Yeah, it's not, but
I think that's the long and short answer of it.
Like
it's there's never a justification for that sort of action. Yes, I will never say, yeah, but she deserved it because of what she said to him.
Someone
I will never say that.
Some people would end up hitting a woman because that woman pushed them to that limit.
I understand that it's a possibility. But
and when I was watching that reality show of this guy, in my head, I was like, wow, this man is a man. She said everything and he did nothing.
There's the answer. There's the answer.
I clapped hands for him.
That is a man.
Because in my head, I'm like, she's really pushing every
That is
button.
the answer. That is the answer. That is the definition of a man, is the one who's able to stay calm and cool through all of that and not push over that boundary.
So let's say she's fighting with you and literally hitting you as well.
Walk out the door.
Wow.
Just leave. Just walk out. Just leave. Phone her mother. I don't know. There's lots of other things you can do. But every time I've ever had, in most of my adult life, when someone is fighting with me, even on text, when you are this, you are that, whatever, I just don't reply. Just quiet. Just silence. Go cool off. We'll discuss it later when you're not so thing. Go. And if someone's coming at you to hit you and abuse, defend yourself, fine. I don't mind someone defending themselves. If a woman's throwing hands at you, grab her arms, stop her. That I'm fine with. But then leave. Just walk out. Go to a friend. Go talk to your friend. Go for a drive, whatever. By the time you get back, maybe it will have calmed down and you say, get out of my house. That's the way to react.
I wish you did answer all my questions, I think. Because I always wondered in my head, I was like, okay, I know this is situation is like, but sometimes you find that you are in a situation like this. And how do you then get out? Because sometimes it's, for example, I had a friend, this girl, when she's angry, she would say that she doesn't see anything. She can throw anything at you, literally. So imagine being in that situation with that person that can take a mug right now and just...
But you see, that person needs to go get help. They mustn't tell Yolanda. They must go tell a psychologist.
In my head, I'm like, what? What do you... She's like, I literally would do that.
Just blacks out and
then
has no control.
Yeah, she literally...
But you need to work on that.
Anything.
You need to fix that.
How?
Go to a psychologist. Go to an expert. Don't ask Marco how. I can help a little bit. I can't help that much. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? But you need to go to a professional and sort out your problems. And try and prevent yourself from getting to triggers that cause you to do that, right? It's like if you're an alcoholic and you're now sober, but being around alcohol and in a bar is too difficult for you and you'll drink again. Don't go to bars.
So now that we're talking about this, I actually remembered when I was in high school, there were girls who would feel like, this is actually true. I promise you. there were girls that would feel like a man doesn't love them if that man doesn't hit them.
But you see, that's part of the broken conversation that we're saying in South Africa, is that there's...
Because they would literally push a man until,
He hits
and then they feel like, okay, that means he loves me for him
but you see,
hitting me.
they're also broken. They also need to have a proper conversation around this.
And it's a lot of them. It's not like 2 girls that I've had.
Yeah.
In my head, I was
but
like,
that's
what?
a broken narrative in our country. And that's also part of the problem of why gender-based violence is so
It's
prominent
so,
here. Is that these sort of things of that's okay, and that's love, and that's this, and that's that. It means it's passion. It's thing. There's lots of other ways to be passionate. There's lots of other ways to show love.
Someone would
that is
even
never
tell
right.
their boyfriend to say that, you don't hit me.
Listen, there's also a lot of women who will go flirt with guys out in public so that their boyfriend can get into a fight with a guy, because then they feel like that's where they feel their guy's a man, and that's how
then
they
the
feel
women
attracted
have
to
a
it.
problem as well.
Yes, those people also have a problem. And that needs to be part of this conversation, is that when anyone brings that up, you'd be like, listen to me very nicely, you're wrong. Don't do that. You're wrong. You know what I'm saying?
And the
it needs
only
to be the
reason that
conversation.
I always felt like it was weird is because I was like, okay, like, why would someone hitting me means love? Because my mom left. So when my dad did that, until she was like, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore. And it didn't look like love for me when I saw it happening through my parents. And when my mom left, I realized that, you know what, there's no way if a person is hitting you, it means they love you. There is no way. But these girls would say that.
No.
In a group, like they would have a conversation about their boyfriends. And be like, oh, so he did this and he did that, and so he hit me. It's like something. I promise you, this really happened.
Anyone who hears that conversation needs to stop them in their tracks and be like, listen to me.
But we were like,
you need to
I was
understand
like,
that's not okay.
But imagine in a group of like 10 or 8 girls.
Be brave.
All of them are saying that, and you have. I didn't even have a boyfriend. I didn't even date at the time. I didn't even know what that is. Guys didn't talk to me at the time. In my head, I'm thinking to myself, okay, so I've never really been in a relationship. So that means this is what's going to happen to me.
Can I tell you what happened there in that scenario? One girl believed that, and the others just followed. Whereas if you were the girl in that scenario who was like, no, that's not okay. That's never all right. Actually, if he hits you, it means he's deeply insecure and unhappy. And if you want him to hit you, you're also deeply insecure and unhappy. And maybe we need to have a conversation about why you're not okay. And then all of a sudden, all the other girls in that circle don't believe the same thing anymore. And that's why these conversations are so important, is that you need to be able to say those things, and you need to be brave and step up. Because even with men, if there's 8 of them in a circle and one says, yeah, I put my wife in her place, whatever, and none of the other men stand up and say it, all the other 8 men are eventually going to agree.
But they also say that when a man hits you, or maybe when your partner hits you, you kind of like connect with them differently emotionally.
No.
Really?
No.
Someone said that to me. People are lying to me every day.
Yeah, that is...
I promise you, they were like, if he hits you, that's why it's very
psychological
difficult.
delusion.
So
what's happening to victims when they feel deeply connected to the person hitting them? It's their way of trying to have control over their victimhood. It's their way of making their victimhood okay in their mind, because they can't cope with the idea of the abuse making them unhappy, depressed, whatever. It's their way of coping with that. It's a coping mechanism for them to attach the act to love, for them to attach the act to connection. So they need to get therapy and help to understand that they are misunderstanding what is going on. It's a coping mechanism, an unhealthy coping mechanism.
Because someone would even say things like, I don't like if you're a guy and you don't hit your girlfriend and you always like prefer talking to them, you bring flowers, you're just romantic. They're like, oh, he's so soft.
Yeah. I understand. Girls like bad boys. Right?
Why?
Girls like bad boys, but that doesn't mean you can be a bad boy.
Okay, how?
And not hit women. Okay. Do you know what I'm saying? Because you don't need to be soft and think. You can be dominant. You can be a dominant, caring, affectionate man.
Okay. I have a friend that's
you're
like
not
that.
You're not a simp if you don't hit women. You can be a dominant, affectionate, caring man. You can be aggressive in sex and choke and throw people around consensually. Great. But when it comes to abuse, you are not a man. You are not dominant. A dominant masculine energy is caring and affectionate and wants to take care of people, doesn't want to break people down. You can be walking on the street as an affectionate, caring man who doesn't beat his girlfriend, and someone comes to attack her, and you get in the way, and you fight and you stop that attack. Is that a man? Yes. Of course. That's being strong, dominant, and I don't think that men shouldn't have the ability to fight. Probably very good to do things like boxing and mixed martial arts and things like that. But the most manly thing you can do is have the ability to do it and then not.
Oh, that is okay. Yeah, but I feel like even women need to change this whole thing. Because
I agree. All of us. Everyone's responsible in society.
From where I come from, Limpopo, basically, where I come from. Because that's where I did my high school and I think I went to 3 different high schools. And in most cases, when I'm sitting with girls, that's what they will say. I promise you. So I think
we need to change the narrative
also with
everyone.
the women. Yes, there are women that believe that's love. And they literally really, I promise you, they would meet a man, a good guy, that's like really good, not doing anything bad. They'll literally tell the guy, you don't love me because you don't hit me.
Yeah. No, look, that's why this conversation is so important, is that these conversations need to reach everyone, and everyone needs to have this conversation, not only men. Women need to have this conversation so that when another woman says that to them, they explain to them what's going on, is that you have a trauma that has given you an unhealthy coping mechanism that makes you want this behavior, and it's not right. You need to break that trauma bond and be better. That's why this conversation is important. And that's why people need to follow you on Spotify.
Yes!
So tell me follow Loud Wednesdays.
Yes. So they must follow, they must still subscribe to the YouTube channel, Loud Wednesdays with Yolanda. And they subscribe here.
Also follow the Loud Wednesdays with Yolanda page on Spotify so that you can watch it early.
Early access,
right?
Yeah.
So if you're waiting for YouTube, you're waiting for Wednesday.
For Wednesday, yeah.
But you get to see these episodes.
But you still need to go there on Wednesday.
Subscribe both. Watch it again on Wednesday.
Yeah.
But you get to watch it early on Spotify on a Monday. Love that. Thank you, Yolanda.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and leave your comments there about this topic or any other topic that you'd want to next or want to hear, whatever the case is. Also, comment here on Spotify. Yes. You need to comment and tell me what you think about this episode. Guys, I want to see you there on Spotify, please.
Please.
We need to like
need Yolifiers
there. We need to be seen here at Spotify. We need to leave some presence, we need to leave a mark or something. So please, guys, don't forget to subscribe and leave your comment and like and share the video. Make sure that everyone sees this. This is a very beautiful message that we had, Mako and I. And how do we close it?
I know how we close it. You start.
Do you want to say something?
No.
You sure?
I'm happy. Let's close it.
Really? What you gonna do about it? Nothing.